How many times have you apologized when you did nothing wrong? How often have you explained yourself endlessly to someone who had already made up their mind about you? How many years have you spent shrinking your presence so that others would feel comfortable? If you felt a sting in your chest just now, it is because you already know the truth. There are two men living inside you. One begs for approval, the other commands respect. The uncertain self is the voice that whispers, "Be nice," even when they cross you. It is the instinct that makes you nod politely when you should have stood your ground. It is the compulsion to justify your every move as if your worth were on trial. This uncertain self was not born with you, it was taught to you. Parents praised you for being obedient. Teachers rewarded you for being manageable. Society shaped you to be predictable. But manageable men do not lead. Obedient men do not build legacies. The uncertain self is the part of you that settles for less, that tolerates disrespect, that makes you smaller than you are. Machiavelli once warned, "He who is not master of himself will always be a servant of others." Think on that. If you cannot govern your own spirit, you will always be governed by someone else's. The uncertain self is nothing more than a leash around your neck, a leash others pull without hesitation. Yet the confident self, the one who sets boundaries, who refuses to explain, who walks into a room without apology, that self is waiting to be fed. Every choice you make tilts the balance. When you apologize unnecessarily, you strengthen the uncertain self. When you enforce a boundary without explanation, you strengthen the confident self. It is a daily contest, a quiet war within. Choose respect over being liked. Feed the confident self. Tell me this, how often do you feel like your mind betrays you? One sharp criticism and you spiral for days. One betrayal and you relive it 100 nights in your sleep. One setback and it feels as if your entire life is collapsing. Why does the human mind capable of such brilliance so often become a prison of chaos? Why does it collapse under pressure when it should rise to meet the storm? If Chapter 1 revealed the war between your uncertain self and your confident self, then Chapter 2 reveals the battlefield, your mind. Win this ground and no enemy can shake you. Lose it, and even the smallest enemy will destroy you from within. Most men live at the mercy of their emotions. Anger grabs them by the collar. Fear drags them into paralysis. Pain convinces them that they are powerless. They mistake emotions for truth when, in fact, emotions are signals. They mistake feelings for destiny when, in fact, feelings are only weather passing through. Picture the average man. He is criticized by a coworker and he rages. A deal falls apart and he collapses into despair. A loved one disappoints him and he interprets it as a declaration of his own unworthiness. His mind has no structure, no walls, no defense. Every arrow of insult pierces straight through. Every wave of uncertainty knocks him off his feet. He reacts, he flails, he burns precious energy trying to patch up his fragile ego. This is what I call the shattered mind, a mind without order, a mind that obeys its emotions rather than commanding them. A shattered mind cannot lead, cannot inspire, cannot endure. And yet this is the condition of most men walking the streets today. But here is the revelation that transforms everything. Emotions are not enemies, they are data. Anger tells you a boundary has been crossed. Fear tells you growth lies ahead. Pain tells you someone has shown you their true nature. Each feeling, if examined through the lens of discipline, becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. This is what it means to build a fortress mind. A fortress does not prevent attacks. It absorbs them, repels them, and stands firm through them. The fortress mind processes insults not as wounds, but as information. This person has revealed their character. It interprets setbacks not as condemnation, but as proof. This path demands greater resilience. Machiavelli once wrote, "A wise man acts in the present, shaping the future." The fortress mind embodies this principle. It sees beyond the sting of the moment. It trains itself to interpret events strategically rather than emotionally. When a friend gossips about you, the shattered mind asks, "Why would he do this to me?" The fortress mind states, "If he gossips to me, he gossips about me. he cannot be trusted. In this way, the fortress mind transforms chaos into clarity. Where others are blinded by their emotions, you see patterns. Where others lose control, you gain control. Where others crumble, you stand unshaken. Building such a mind is not an overnight task. It requires discipline, awareness, and daily practice. Begin by pausing. When anger rises, do not lash out. Pause and ask, what boundary has been violated? When fear creeps in, do not freeze. Pause and ask, what growth is this fear pointing me toward? When pain pierces, do not sink. Pause and ask, what truth about this person or situation has just been revealed? Each pause is a stone added to your fortress. Each act of discipline is a wall strengthened. With time, the fortress becomes unshakable. Criticism cannot penetrate because you no longer take it personally. Betrayal cannot shatter you because you already knew that human beings serve themselves first. Setbacks cannot destroy you because you built contingencies expecting them. And what happens when you live inside a fortress mind? You become untouchable in ways that average men cannot understand. They cannot rattle you with petty insults. They cannot lure you into pointless arguments. They cannot control you with fear or shame. You stand not because the world is gentle, but because you are fortified. The uncertain self that we confronted in Chapter 1 feeds on a shattered mind. But the confident self, the leader within, thrives only when protected by walls of clarity and reason. To build your fortress mind is to build the stage upon which your confident self can finally rule. So remember this affirmation. My mind is a fortress. My thoughts are tools. Write it down. Repeat it daily. Let it remind you that your emotions are not chains around your neck, but signals on your map. A fortress is not built in silence. It is built in stone, one block at a time. Every pause, every choice, every disciplined interpretation is a stone placed in your wall. In time, you will look around and realize nothing external can shake the man who has mastered his inner citadel. Choose to be that man. Build your fortress mind. Why is it that the loudest man in the room is so often the weakest? Why does the one who argues the most, explains the longest, and defends himself with endless words always seem to be the one least respected? If words were proof of power, then the world's noisiest men would also be the most influential. Yet history and experience tell us the opposite true power is often quiet, measured, and deliberate. In Chapter 2, we built the fortress of the mind, a place where emotions no longer rule over reason. Now we turn to the weapon that fortress produces: silence. The insecure man cannot stop talking. He fills every pause with nervous chatter because he fears being misunderstood. He explains his choices in painful detail because he cannot bear the thought of being judged. He argues with anyone who challenges him because his fragile ego needs constant defense. But notice what happens when a man does the opposite. Imagine a man who, when accused unfairly, simply looks back calmly without a word. Imagine a man who, when pressed for explanations, answers only with no and nothing more. Imagine a man who refuses to be drawn into petty drama or meaningless disputes. What happens? The silence unsettles his challengers. They grow louder, more desperate, more chaotic, while he remains immovable. That immovability is power. It is influence born not of noise, but of restraint. Machiavelli once observed, "The lion does not need to roar to be respected." The lesson is simple, but profound. It is not the roar that makes the lion feared. It is the knowledge of what the lion can do if provoked. So too, with men, respect comes not from words spent in defense, but from the quiet certainty of capability. Silence creates mystery. When people cannot read you easily, they assign you more depth than you might even possess. They imagine that you are planning something significant. They attribute strategy to your restraint. They wonder what you know that they do not. In silence, they hand you influence you never claimed. But here is the paradox. Silence only works if, when you do choose to speak, your words carry weight. A man who is usually quiet commands attention the moment he opens his mouth. His words land like stones in still water, each one creating ripples. The chatter of others is quickly forgotten, but his sentence is remembered. To master silence is not to become mute. It is to speak strategically. It is to save your words for moments when they matter and to let your quiet presence speak in all other moments. This practice protects you from self-sabotage. Think of how many men have destroyed careers, marriages, or alliances with words they later wished they could take back. Silence is insurance against reckless speech. It shields you from giving your opponents ammunition. It forces others to show their hand while you keep yours hidden. When you refuse to argue, you deny others the battle they crave. When you refuse to explain, you deny them authority over your choices. When you refuse to fill silence with noise, you magnify your presence instead of diminishing it. In a world drowning in endless chatter, tweets, posts, podcasts, arguments, the man who knows when to remain silent is a rare figure. And rarity is the essence of value. Silence is not weakness, it is discipline. It is not passivity, it is strategy. It is the shield that protects your fortress mind and the sword that unsettles your challengers. Remember this affirmation: my silence speaks louder than their noise. Write it, repeat it, practice it. The uncertain self we encountered in Chapter 1 is terrified of silence because silence cannot be used to beg for approval. The shattered mind from Chapter 2 hates silence because silence leaves no room for emotional outbursts. But the confident self, defended by the fortress mind, thrives in silence. He uses it like a weapon, wielding it with purpose. So let others waste their strength in endless words. You, instead, will save your strength for decisive action. Let them roar until their voices crack. You will let silence carry your power. And when you finally choose to speak, your words will not be many, but they will be remembered. What breaks most men? Not war, not hunger, not the weight of responsibility. What truly breaks them are disappointments, the quiet betrayals, the broken promises, the moments when trust shatters and expectations collapse. Tell me, how many times have you replayed a conversation in your head, searching for signs you missed? How many nights have you asked yourself, why would they do this to me? If you have, then you know the sting of disappointment, and you know how it can drain the very marrow of your confidence. But here is the brutal truth. Disappointment is not an accident. It is inevitable. And if you learn to wield it correctly, it will become your greatest weapon. The average man expects too much from people. He believes friends will always put loyalty before convenience. He imagines business partners will sacrifice money for honor. He assumes loved ones will never betray him, and that strangers will act in good faith. These are the illusions of a naive heart. So when reality arrives, when the friend chooses himself, when the partner takes the money, when the family member turns their back, the man is crushed. His spirit collapses under the weight of his illusions. He becomes bitter, cynical, or paralyzed. He wastes months reliving the wound, drowning in questions with no answers. This is the fate of the fragile. They cannot accept that disappointment is not the exception, but the rule. They cannot comprehend that human beings, by nature, are self-serving. So every betrayal feels like an earthquake, instead of what it truly is, a weather pattern you should have expected all along. Here is the philosopher's shift, the strategist's revelation. Disappointment is information. It is data. It is proof of who people really are when the mask comes off. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are unpredictable, changeable, and self-serving. The man who forgets this is always wounded. The man who remembers this is never surprised. When someone betrays you, they are not destroying you, they are teaching you. They are revealing their priorities. They are showing you their limits. They are handing you clarity that you could not have gained otherwise. And clarity, though painful, is power. Think of it this way. Every disappointment strips away illusion. Before the betrayal, you thought you had a loyal ally. After it, you see you were alone all along. Before the broken promise, you believed in words. After it, you know to believe only in actions. Before the letdown, you placed your trust blindly. After it, you place trust strategically. Disappointment is not the enemy. It is the fire that forges discernment. To turn setbacks into strength, you must abandon the victim's question. Why did this happen to me? And adopt the strategist's question. What did this reveal to me? Sometimes the lesson is simple. This person cannot be trusted. Sometimes it is deeper. My plan depended too heavily on someone else's integrity. Sometimes it is brutally honest. I ignored the warning signs because I wanted to believe the best. Each disappointment, if examined correctly, becomes a stone in the foundation of wisdom. There are two practical responses to disappointment. Complete removal. Some people prove themselves unworthy of another chance. The wise man cuts ties cleanly and permanently, no explanations required. Strategic patience. Others you may tolerate for a time, not because you trust them, but because you are waiting for the moment when their unreliability serves your plan instead of sabotaging it. Either way, the disappointment has given you a gift, knowledge. And knowledge is leverage. Understand this as well. The fact that you are disappointed at all is proof of your rise. People do not betray men beneath them. They betray those they envy, those whose presence unsettles them, those who are advancing. If you are being disappointed, it is because you have become a figure worth disappointing. Wear that fact like armor. Most men let disappointment make them bitter, small, and closed off. You will let it make you stronger, sharper, and more selective. Affirm this truth. Disappointment is my education. Setbacks are my fuel. The uncertain self from Chapter 1 would crumble under betrayal. The shattered mind from Chapter 2 would overreact. The insecure man from Chapter 3 would try to argue, explain, or win back approval. But you will do none of these. You will see the reality clearly, and you will grow from it. Every disappointment is proof that you are rising, proof that you are worth betraying, proof that you are advancing. Let others collapse under the weight of broken expectations. You will build muscle from carrying it. Let others drown in bitterness. You will drink clarity from the same cup. So when the next setback comes, and it will welcome it as the sternest of teachers, let it carve away your illusions. Let it reveal the truth. And then let that truth harden you into a man who cannot be broken. For in the end, the man who has survived every disappointment and still moves forward has become something rare, something formidable, a man no longer shaped by betrayal, but a man who shapes betrayal into power. Why do we waste so much time trying to change the minds of people who will never respect us? Why do men argue endlessly with critics who neither understand nor care about their success? Think about it. Have you ever convinced a bitter critic to suddenly applaud you? Have you ever seen a man transformed because you explained yourself long enough? No. All you did was waste your breath while your critic remained unmoved and you remained exhausted. The truth is, this arguments don't silence critics. Excellence does. The fragile man lives for approval. The uncertain self we uncovered in Chapter 1 needs validation like it needs air. So when critics appear, he explains, he debates, he raises his voice, he tries to win them over, and in doing so, he grants them power. He elevates their words to the level of judgment. He treats their opinions as verdicts to be overturned in court. But here is the reality: many critics have no qualifications to judge you. They are spectators, not builders. They are consumers of effort, not creators of value. They hurl words because words cost them nothing. Yet, when you argue with them, you make their cheap words expensive. You dignify their insult by meeting it with serious defense. This is how most men lose years of progress spending their energy trying to convince people who were never meant to understand them. The way of the strategist is different. He knows that criticism is not a problem to be solved, but a noise to be outshone. He does not argue, he produces. He does not defend, he delivers. He does not debate, he dominates through results. Machiavelli wrote, "Let no one think they can overcome fortune with complaints. By the same token, let no one think you can overcome criticism with explanations. Complaints are answered by discipline. Criticism is silenced by visible success." Imagine this one man argues with his critics all day while another works silently and produces results that cannot be denied? Which one is remembered? Which one commands respect? The critic fades into envy. The builder is immortalized by achievement. The twist is simple. Critics are not obstacles. They are signals. If people are criticizing you, it means you are visible. If they are doubting you, it means you are doing something they themselves cannot. Their complaints are backhanded compliments. They only waste breath on those who disturb their own mediocrity. So how do you silence critics? Not with words, but with a record of undeniable achievement. When you excel consistently, the criticism dies in the critic's throat. When you build something tangible, their gossip looks like jealousy. When you deliver results, their doubts look like delusion. This requires a shift in focus. Stop measuring yourself by how many people agree with you and start measuring yourself by how many things you've built, how many goals you've reached, how many victories you've secured. Every hour spent arguing is an hour stolen from your growth. Every minute spent defending is a minute stolen from your craft. Instead of trying to look right in the eyes of those who doubt you, become undeniable. Build something so impressive, so solid, so resilient that no amount of criticism can tear it down. Excellence speaks in a voice critics cannot shout over. The practical path is this. When criticized, do not respond in the moment. Store that energy. Pour it into your discipline, your craft, your strategy. Deliver results that are visible, measurable, and lasting. Let the results answer the critics for you. Over time, you will notice something strange. Critics will shift their posture. Some will fall silent. Some will disguise their envy as admiration. Some will even try to attach themselves to your success, hoping to benefit from the very man they once mocked. This is the nature of human beings, and the wise man wastes no time being bitter about it. He simply keeps building. Remember this. I silence critics with success, not arguments. The man still trapped in his uncertain self will always feel the need to explain. The man with a fortress mind may resist reacting, but he may still be tempted to argue. The man who has mastered silence knows not to take the bait. But the man who rises above all of them, the unstoppable man, simply excels. He lets his discipline and his achievement speak so loudly that no critic can be heard. Do not squander your life debating with those who have built nothing. Do not waste your strength justifying your path to those who will never walk it. Instead, focus entirely on creating, achieving, excelling. For when your success is undeniable, the critics will either vanish or turn into silent witnesses of your greatness. Let their envy fuel you. Let their doubt sharpen you. Let their noise fade beneath the thunder of your results. Stop arguing. Start excelling. That is how you silence the world. 7 seconds. That is all it takes for people to decide who you are. Before you speak a word, before you reveal your accomplishments, before you share your story, they have already drawn their conclusions. Ask yourself, what story is your presence telling in those first 7 seconds? Do they see strength or hesitation, authority or apology, mystery or mediocrity? Whether you realize it or not, you already have a reputation. The question is whether you control it or whether it controls you. Most men drift through life leaving their reputation to chance. They imagine that people will eventually understand their worth, that their intentions will somehow shine through, that truth will reveal itself in time. But the world is not so patient. Consider how quickly you form opinions of others, a handshake that is limp, a posture that sags, a voice that trembles, a story told with too much detail. You don't wait 3 months to decide what you think of that person, you decide in moments. And so do others when they meet you. The fragile man overexposes himself. He tells his whole life story to anyone who will listen. He reveals his insecurities under the guise of honesty. He explains his choices in an effort to be understood. What he does not realize is that this floods the room with weakness. He leaves no mystery, no presence, no aura. And so he is dismissed before he even begins. A reputation left unattended becomes a liability. Like a house without walls, it invites intruders, gossips, and opportunists to shape your story for you. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone sees but few can touch." In other words, perception matters more than intention. People act based not on what you truly are, but on what they believe you to be. If you ignore this reality, you will always be at the mercy of misjudgment. If you master it, you gain one of the greatest tools of influence. This is why you must learn to control your reputation deliberately. It is not vanity. It is strategy. It is not deception. It is discipline. The way you stand, the calm in your voice, the steadiness of your gaze, the restraint in what you reveal. These are not minor details. They are bricks in the fortress of your public identity. Understand this: reputation is not only about appearance, it is about consistency. When chaos erupts, the man who remains calm builds a reputation for steadiness. When others panic, the man who acts decisively builds a reputation for leadership. When the crowd loses discipline, the man who remains disciplined becomes a legend. Mystery also plays a role. Do not reveal everything. Do not explain your every decision. Do not broadcast your every plan. What is hidden draws more respect than what is exposed. People respect the unknown far more than they respect the over-explained. To control your reputation, you must live deliberately. You must understand that every gesture, every silence, every decision, every withdrawal builds a narrative in the minds of others. Practical steps are simple but powerful. Master your body language. Stand as if you own the space you occupy. Walk as if you are going somewhere important. Sit as if you are already in command. Restrain your words. Speak less, but make each word weigh more. Reveal less, but let what you reveal carry meaning. Stay consistent under pressure. Be the same man in crisis as you are in comfort. Do not let circumstances dictate your demeanor. Cut ties cleanly. When you withdraw from someone, do it without theatrics. Finality builds gravity. Deliver competence. Reputation without skill is hollow. Build real excellence beneath the image, or the image will collapse under scrutiny. Control your narrative, or others will write it for you, and they will write it to their advantage, not yours. Your reputation is not a decoration. It is your shield and your sword. It precedes you into every room and lingers after you leave. Do not treat it casually. Build it deliberately. Protect it fiercely. Use it strategically. Affirm this truth. I control my reputation. My presence commands respect. The man who argued with his critics in Chapter 5 wasted his reputation on noise. But the man who silences critics through excellence also shapes his reputation through consistency, mystery, and control. He becomes known not only for what he achieves, but for the presence he carries into every space. Do not wait for the world to see the real you. Show them what you choose. Control the first 7 seconds. Control the story people tell about you when you are not in the room. Control the narrative and you control the influence. In the end, your reputation is not merely what people think of you, it is what they expect from you. And when their expectations align with your strength, your influence multiplies without effort. So step into the world each day with deliberate presence. Let your actions, your silence, your steadiness, and your excellence tell the story you want told. And when you do, you will no longer be at the mercy of perception. You will master it. Most men think excellence is something you turn on when the spotlight shines. They believe it belongs to the big presentation, the final exam, the championship game, the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But let me ask you, what happens in the countless hours when nobody is watching? What happens in the quiet mornings when you don't feel like rising in the small choices that no one will ever applaud? That is where your destiny is written. Excellence is not an act. Excellence is a discipline. The fragile man waits for important moments. He tells himself that he will rise when the time comes. He convinces himself that under pressure, his best self will magically appear. But when the pressure arrives, he fails because he never built the habits that would carry him through. Excellence is forged in obscurity. It is hammered into shape in the moments when excuses whisper louder than commitment. It is tested when there is no audience, no applause, no reward. Think about the soldier. His performance in battle is determined not by what he does on the field that day, but by what he did in every drill, every repetition, every weary morning when he wanted to rest but trained anyway. The same is true for every domain of life. Business relationships, leadership. Comfort is the enemy of excellence. Comfort makes a man predictable. Predictability makes him manageable. And a manageable man, as we saw in earlier chapters, is easily dismissed. When you choose comfort over discipline, you are not resting. You are surrendering. Machiavelli wrote, "Fortune favors the disciplined." Most misquote it as "fortune favors the bold." Boldness without discipline is recklessness. But discipline, unyielding, consistent discipline turns boldness into power. Here lies the revelation. Discipline is not punishment. It is liberation. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust in your own word. Every time you do what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it, you strengthen the bond between intention and action. That bond is the essence of confidence. Men chase motivation like addicts. They wait to feel ready before they act. But discipline doesn't wait for feelings. Discipline acts regardless of feelings. Discipline says, I run whether I feel like it or not. I build whether I feel inspired or not. I show up whether I am praised or not. This is the paradox. By doing the hard thing when no one cares, you become the kind of man people cannot ignore. By keeping standards when it would be easier to relax them, you become the man who stands out. To make excellence a discipline, start with the small things. Wake up when you promised yourself you would. Train your body even when you are tired. Handle small annoyances with dignity instead of irritation. Keep your word in matters so small that no one else would notice because you will notice, and that is enough. Your character is not built in front of an audience. It is built in solitude, in repetition, in the thousands of choices that nobody celebrates. By the time the big stage arrives, you are simply revealing the strength you already forged in secret. Understand this: when others tell you to relax, they are not protecting you. They are pulling you back into mediocrity. When they say you are too intense, it is because your discipline confronts their laziness. When they mock your standards, it is because your standards reveal their lack of them. Do not listen. Their comfort is their prison. Your discipline is your freedom. The disciplined man succeeds when the comfortable man collapses. He stands tall under pressure because pressure is nothing more than repetition under brighter lights. He is trusted because he has proven himself trustworthy to himself first. He commands respect because his habits have already commanded his life. Affirm this: excellence is my daily practice. Discipline is my strength. Your uncertain self from Chapter 1 will resist whispering. Relax, take it easy. Your fortress mind from Chapter 2 knows better. It will remind you that every feeling is just data, not destiny. The silence you mastered in Chapter 3 will protect you from explaining your strictness. The resilience you learned in Chapter 4 will turn setbacks into fuel. The excellence that silenced your critics in Chapter 5 will now become a lifestyle. And the reputation you forged in Chapter 6 will be reinforced every day you live out your discipline. Excellence is not what you do when the world is watching. Excellence is who you are when no one is. Make it your ritual. Make it your creed. Make it the spine that holds you upright when others fold. For when life tests you, and it will test you, the disciplined man will endure while the comfortable man disappears. The disciplined man will advance while the comfortable man is forgotten. And in that moment, the difference will not be talent, luck, or fortune. It will be discipline. So choose discipline. Choose daily excellence. Build the habits that make you untouchable. In time, the world will not marvel at your performance. They will marvel that you were always ready. What would it mean to live in such a way that nothing could shake you? Imagine criticism falling on deaf ears, betrayal failing to cut you down, setbacks turning into fuel, and praise no longer intoxicating you. What if you reached a point where no one, not friend, not enemy, not stranger, could hold you back, break you, or stop you? This is not a fantasy. This is the final stage of the journey you have been walking through every chapter. To become unstoppable is not to escape life's storms, but to become the kind of man the storms cannot move. Throughout history, most men remain stoppable. They are swayed by public opinion. They are broken by betrayal. They are crushed by loss. They spend their lives reacting to the external world like leaves carried away by the wind. The uncertain self from Chapter 1 collapses under disapproval. The fragile mind from Chapter 2 shatters at the first insult. The man who cannot master silence from Chapter 3 argues until his voice is gone. The one who never learned resilience in Chapter 4 stays stuck in disappointment. The man who seeks to silence critics in Chapter 5 by words instead of deeds wastes his life in futile battles. The one who neglects his reputation in Chapter 6 lets others define him. And the man who rejects discipline in Chapter 7 is conquered by comfort before he ever reaches greatness. Each of these is a form of stoppability, and most men never break free from them. But here is the revelation: being unstoppable is not about being untouchable. You will still feel pain. You will still face betrayal. You will still encounter failure. The difference is that none of it will own you anymore. Machiavelli wrote, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. To be unstoppable is to conquer the last enemy. Your own dependence on the approval, validation, and cooperation of others. When you no longer need the world to agree, to support, to applaud, or to understand, you are finally free. The unstoppable man is not cold-hearted, but he is selective. He chooses who may access his time, his energy, his influence. He does not cut himself off from people, but he is no longer enslaved by their opinions. His relationships are chosen from strength, not from need. His decisions are born of vision, not of fear. In this way, the unstoppable man transcends the limitations that bind ordinary lives. Critics can shout, but he does not hear them. Betrayal can sting, but it does not bend him. Setbacks can delay him, but they do not defeat him. To reach this state, you must weave together every lesson you have learned, transform the uncertain self into the confident one. Build the fortress mind that turns emotions into data. Master the art of silence, letting presence speak louder than noise. Turn setbacks into strength by extracting wisdom from pain. Silence critics through excellence, not arguments. Control your reputation, shaping perception instead of surrendering it. Make excellence a discipline, choosing growth over comfort daily. All of these converge here. The result is a man who is no longer ruled by the external world. He is self-governed, self-disciplined, self-directed. He carries himself with the quiet assurance that he is unbreakable, not because he is invincible, but because he has already conquered his own weakness. The unstoppable man is not arrogant. He is grounded. He is not reckless. He is strategic. He is not desperate. He is abundant. He stands firm while others sway, and he advances while others retreat. Affirm this truth: I am unbreakable. I am unbending. I am unstoppable. You began this journey as one man. You finish it as another. The uncertain self has been transformed. The fortress mind is built. Silence has become your weapon. Setbacks have become your teachers. Critics have been silenced by your excellence. Your reputation is under your command. Discipline has become your ritual. And now you are unstoppable. This is not the end of a book, but the beginning of a life. The world will test you. People will push against your new boundaries. Old habits will whisper, calling you back to comfort and weakness. Do not retreat. You have come too far. Step into every room knowing that your presence commands respect. Walk through every challenge, knowing that your resilience has already been tested. Confront every critic knowing that your results speak louder than their words. Carry yourself as the man who cannot be broken, not because the world is gentle, but because you are strong. The unstoppable man does not wait for permission. He does not hope for opportunity. He does not ask for his place. He takes it. And so I leave you with this charge: go out and prove it. Prove it to the doubters. Prove it to the world. But most of all, prove it to yourself. For when you do nothing, no force, no man, no obstacle will ever stop you again.